Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. I love it when Barry starts off with a chuckle. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's show. So Barry and I were just talking about gaslighting seems to be the subject of the week. I am noticing, not just in clients, but also in, I think even if in my own life, there was a slight gaslighting going on in my life this week, which I'll mention later. And but more than anything, I'm noticing it in the media. I'm noticing this whole Epstein file and the backlash. And what I realize is that it's not, it's not so much what's in the files, because, Trump has already been an accused and convicted sex offender and many things. So there's nothing. And as he said, I could shoot somebody and still get away with it. I think what has upset his base more than anything is the gaslighting. It's not the contents of whether he's in those files or not, because they sort of know he's a bit of a scumbag, let's just put it bluntly. So I don't think there's any more information that can come out that will change those people's minds. It's just the guy being the guy, and hey, young girls are attractive, and whatever the justification will be. But what I am observing and what I think is the real issue here right now is the gaslighting. It's the saying for years, yes, there's something here, yes, there's something here, and then all of a sudden saying there's nothing to be seen. People don't like to be lied to for many reasons. Number one, it helps their intelligence. It makes them feel like they're living in crazy land, which unfortunately we are living in crazy land anyway. People don't like to be manipulated. They like to feel they have free agency over their own decisions in their own life. And gaslighting, it erodes that. Number one, it's insulting to the other person. And secondly, there's many things which we'll go into later, but Barry, I want you to jump in right now because I can see there's something you want to say. Yes. So jump in here. What's going on in your mind?
The thing is, so you get the gaslighting quote used to be, at least in my memory, gaslighting was where somebody was basically lied to from the get-go. So the person who's been gaslit didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
This situation, everybody knows what's going on, but they're being lied bald-faced to his bald-faced lying to them. And the thing about it is that bugs me is that there have been videos out for several years now showing not the heinous acts, but the clarity, the fact that they knew each other and there was something going on. And also about the fact there were, in fact, either a printout or a digital record of something that happened. Mm-hmm. And to go, oh, I know what I said before, it's not true, it's not real. It's almost like gaslighting quadrupled, because it's not even subtle. It's almost blatantly people see one thing and then go, you didn't see that, and it's this misleading piece. And
that is gaslighting. Otherwise, it's just lying. But it's when you distort somebody else's reality intentionally, like the film, the gaslighting film. He deliberately manipulated the gaslights to go up and down and tell her she was imagining it. So what it is it's a form of mind control. So they almost have to mess with your mind. If it's just lying and lying, it's lying, and nobody finds out about it. It's making the person that's been lied to feel like they can't trust themselves, that what they see is not reality. So it is that game that you almost have to. You can't just convincingly lie. You've got to make the other person feel really, really shaky about their own sense of reality, and that is so damaging in a relationship.
So the thing in relationship gaslighting, the way I interpret it though, is the person coming into that place holds that line of what they convince the other person about almost from the get-go. They don't suddenly go middle of the road, suddenly go, I'm going to left turn and change direction, which is what is the sense where they basically say one thing and then they change their mind to something else. And that's what I feel. That's why there's maybe different flavors is what I'm looking at of what gaslighting is, because ultimately it is about lying and convincing other people that they're wrong when in fact they've seen the evidence and they know they're not wrong.
Oh, absolutely. I'll say this one thing about it. You have not been in a very severe relationship with a narcissist who does this type of gaslighting, because this is exactly what can go on. You can catch your partner with his hand on somebody's ass and they can say, no, it was on her shoulder. You imagined it. So there's the bending of the truth. And you've seen it with your own eyes. You've witnessed it, and they're telling you you're crazy. You imagined it. The hand was on the shoulder. It's that type of making you think you're going crazy. But again, exactly. I mean, and that is, Trump's playbook is deny, 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 deny. Don't care if they're facts. Don't care if they're photos. Don't care if they're videotapes. Don't care recordings. It doesn't matter. He still will deny it. So but there was something I wanted to add to that, which was, oh my goodness, what is it? I forgot it. It'll come back as always if I don't chase it.
Well, let me just to respond to that. Yes, I've not been an emotionally invested relationship with a person gaslighting, or a narcissist for that matter, but I have experienced people attempting to gaslight me in social circles or in business circles. So it's not been direct relationship, because gaslighting is not restricted just to romantic relationships, just to be clear.
That's true, exactly.
I've seen people do one thing and say they and then deny it later on, and sometimes it is harder to hold on to the belief that I believe what I saw and not fall into the trap of believing what they're telling me.
Yeah.
So I've had that experience before where I've had to question my own reality for a second there. So I do know that part to that level, not to the level of being in a deeply loving relationship and be pulled apart by a narcissist. So no, I haven't had that experience, just to be clear.
No, I'm really glad you said that. You're absolutely right, because what's really, excuse me, prompted this conversation isn't even an intimate relationship. It's the relationship between a man in power, a man that, I can't even use the word president. He's a man that's in power right now, calls himself president.
I've heard it said it's the White House occupant.
Yeah, okay, great. That's a good one. And it's the relationship with people that have followed him blindly. Oh, this is what I wanted to bring up. The gaslighting happened in my experience in the last week. And what it was such an innocent form of gaslighting. And it was actually done to protect me. But I got so triggered because my partner, my husband now, is the furthest thing from a narcissist. But he can be, conflict avoidant. And the other day he had some feelings about something, and I walked into the room, and I could just tell his demeanor changed a bit. And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Nothing, everything's fine." I said, "No, I'm feeling it. Something's really shifted. I can see you move." No, everything's fine, And I'm starting to feel really upset because I can clearly see and sense that something has upset him, but he didn't want to say it. And then 5 hours later, talking about completely separate thing, he admitted to what the feeling had been in that moment that I had not caught him in, but found him in when I came back out of my bedroom. And instead of being honest and just saying, yeah, I had a flash of a moment and it just made me upset, and whatever, everything would have been fine. But it was this denial that what I was seeing was actually going on, and I was imagining it. Now, again, he said afterwards, it was just he says, as you say, it's just energy moving through me. It's just a thought. I don't have to feed it. I don't have to. So I was trying to do that. Because I didn't really want to bring it up to you because it really wasn't that important. And I was like, this is all in his head, having a feeling, processing the feeling, and then denying the feeling. And I just said, you know what? It's much simpler to just say, oh, I just had this memory or this thought, and it upset me, but it's not a big deal. And that is transparency to me. And again, the intention was not to manipulate, control in a negative way. It was purely in a really lovely way, but at the same time, it created an issue that wouldn't have been there if there had just been transparency and honesty about, yeah, I felt like for a moment, it just moved through me.
The difference, though, I would suggest,
Yes.
in that circumstance, is that it was done from a place of innocence, but also a place of not wanting to bother you with it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it wasn't so much that he was hiding it from you to control you. It was more about just simply saying didn't want to share it because like it wasn't a big deal. I know I've been in that situation myself, similar to that, where someone asked me what was going on, and I stuffed things down because I didn't want to express it in that moment. I didn't feel ready for it in a way. I didn't know if they were going to be ready for it, and so I protected them by not letting that blow out of myself. And that's why happened in my history a couple of times. And so I know that feeling. But certainly, it comes from a much more kind place, perhaps in quotes, than an arrogant place. If that makes any sense.
100%. I knew that, and I wouldn't have even doubted. I never once felt manipulated. I didn't feel any of the feelings. But as the so-called denial of what my reality was going on, I felt that old feeling. I was triggered by having, being in narcissistic relationships where my reality has been questioned and things like that. So that got triggered. But again, as I said, it was, once he finally 4 hours later said, well, yes, something was going on. I had this thought or whatever. I didn't once feel, it just was like, wow, we can gaslight from a place of trying to be good people, not just trying to get one over on somebody and manipulate and control and whatever. We can actually do it innocently. Like I said, the word innocently, because the intention was all good. It was not to bother me, not to whatever. But when we sort of deny something that is so obvious, it does come across as not being authentic or not being transparent. So it's something just to be aware of. I share it just to sort of say, hey, look for the subtleties in the way that gaslighting can show up in your life.
Yeah, because the thing I would say on that, because there's a quote years ago I remember used a lot. I would say basically that when all else fails, try honesty. Is that most of us oftentimes don't even realize how much we're presenting a certain look to the world and hiding things from people, even those people close to us, because either we don't want to bother them with it, or we don't want to appear to be less than they think we are, sort of thing. And so I was talking to somebody about this a couple of days ago, one of my clients, about being totally vulnerable and emotionally naked in front of somebody is a thing people don't do very easily, and it requires a great deal of courage to be that transparent, so the person who sees you as you really are, without any pretense or protection or sense that you don't have to tell, it's like that you can make things up. It's like you become so real and raw. It can be challenging and painful, yet it can be so freeing at the same time.
I think it's so incredibly liberating to be, not honest to the point where if somebody says to you, you don't like me, do you? And you go, you're right, I don't like you. There's this degrees, sometimes I think people don't pick up on body language of just type, so sometimes you do have to put a little air of coolness out there just to sort of, so I'm not saying that we should all be sort of blatantly blunt and telling, each other what we feel
Right.
but exactly what you just said, that there's something so freeing to be, and it's really honest with yourself before you're even honest with other people. And that's why I love shadow work so much, because I had a client this week that I was saying, okay, write your obituary. I want 2 obituaries. One is everything you would love to think that people are saying about you once you died, and one that's going to have you rolling in your grave, literally going, oh my God, I can't believe people thought I was like that. And I said, just really go for it. Oh,
Right.
so-and-so's a bitch. Oh, she was this, she was that. And I said, just go for it. And this woman's face is like looking. I said, trust me, when you can live with that list, when you can see that list and say, you know what, sometimes I can be a little bitchy. It's okay. These are just human. These are human traits that we have. It's okay. It's our denial of them and I've got to be perfect. And then what we do is we shove that shadow down, because we don't want to see it in ourselves. And what do? We see it in everybody else. So
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like when you can make friends with all those aspects of yourself that you don't think are, good, when you can say, hey, yeah, they show up every now and again. I do the best I can, but sometimes these things show up. If you can be forgiving with yourself and kind with yourself about those things, you will be with other people too. You don't judge them because they, oh, I do that too. That's me as well. So I can't judge them. So it's really, really important to, as you said, get really honest with yourself about your humanity, all the wonderful things that makes you human and spiritual, obviously. Um, and then just share that. And you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but you're going to be, your relationships are going to be a lot more authentic. You're going to find your tribe. People are going to really gravitate to you or pull away. But when we try and manage other people's expectation or experience of us, which, as you said, can fall under that gaslighting. It's
Yep.
that I'm going to hide this part of myself and I'm just going to present this side. And when you see this real side of me, I'm going to tell you that it's your fault. You're imagining it. That doesn't exist. And it just creates this really shaky ground, just erodes the trust.
It is one of those things that and say this it's interesting because I know because we sort of earlier sort of bordered in the area of projections as well, which we didn't really talk about in the show, but we can border on to another time. But
Mhm.
there's a that has this desire, I think, oftentimes we're on first dates to be like to be all together and everything's perfect, so we're not going to show them any flaws. But 6 weeks into the relationship, you're both sitting on the couch in sweats, eating pizza in front of each other. So it's like the decline of perfection diminishes over time, sort of thing. In a
Mhm.
regular relationship, most people tend to go that way. But someone who's so preoccupied with their perfection, they don't want to show any sign of weakness, can get that way where they become gaslighting because they don't want to show any flaws. And if their partner sees something in that wasn't perfect, they're going to deny it. It's like, no, 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 I'm perfect.
Yeah.
And so this self-image that's actually inaccurate becomes the governing rule about relationship because they're not willing to show them any sign of vulnerability, weakness, softness, flaws, whatever it is, because that would disillusion themselves about their own perfection. So of
Yeah.
course they're going to anybody else seeing any flaws in them.
It's so funny because you bring up two things that got spiked by what you just said, and one is I used to notice when I was younger and had a few more faults than I have now, but I would actually intentionally let the person I just met know how bad I could be. And if they could get over that, then I could trust them. So I actually showed my flaws much earlier than probably anybody else did because it was a test. It was like, this is how I can be sometimes. Are you okay with this? Because I'm not pretending this isn't going to show up every now and again. And so that was one thing. It was really funny. I could see myself doing that, thinking, God, you're misbehaving badly. You don't normally do this. And then I realized it was just a test. How much do now you've seen all of me, do you still want to be here? Was really what it was. And the
Yeah.
other thing that you were saying about people can justify their gaslighting. One is, obviously with the Trump thing, it's like win at all costs. Never. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched that. The lawyer that he was his friend and his lawyer, where he learned this from Roy Cohen. It's a great documentary. It's unbelievable, and it is. It's like this Roy Cohen's, mantra was never, ever, ever admit to anything, even when it's black and white. You stick to the story, and it
Which is
is repetition, repetition, repetition. And I remember when I was, in a long relationship with a narcissist who was a pathological cheater as well, and the denials and I am my fault is I'm too trusting. I don't want to waste my life being suspicious. I really don't. So I do tend to be a little gullible, or, was more gullible, put it that way. But I'd rather trust than not trust. I don't want to be in a relationship where I don't trust. But the argument when the truth came out was, I did it to protect you. Whatever you didn't know couldn't hurt you. And it's like, that's just BS. I'm sorry.
yes.
Let's call it for what it is. There was no protection. If you genuinely wanted to protect, then you just don't cheat. You don't do, you don't do things that that will really damage the relationship and damage the other person. Because what ends up happening is you know, that justification, what they don't know doesn't hurt them, you know. And we're going to talk about this next week. We're going to talk about the kiss cam exposure. And when you do cheat and you do think you can manipulate and have your cake and eat it too, and stay married and, you know, keep that separate and have this other thing over here, you know, the truth often does come out, and the pain and um, the additional pain that is caused at the end of a relationship due to cheating, as opposed to just like, I don't want to be in this relationship with you anymore. I'm just not feeling it. It doesn't, whatever reason. But a clean break is far easier to deal with than to feel all the feelings you feel once you've been lied to for a number of years, and you're left feeling like, I must be crazy. How come I didn't know? When I did know, I questioned and asked and was told I was crazy. And your self-esteem is at the lowest level. And the same as when a parent, I mean, this is where it starts. I mean, this is where it started for me, was having my reality as a child questioned by my mother. You know, what felt yucky to me and scary to me, my mother was saying, no, it's not. He's just being nice. Let him stroke you. You know, I mean, in front of my mother, it was just on my back. But the point was, I was saying, this doesn't feel good. This is not right. And I was told, don't upset grown-ups. It's fine. Nothing's happening. So that's where the erosion starts. Very early on, it can be that your reality is not your reality. And you end up just losing touch with your intuition, your inner guidance, your gut. I mean, all of that gets robbed from you when you're going through gaslighting.
But I would say, though, on that note, a large proportion of parents, I think, have done that to their children, not realizing they were gaslighting them. Basically, just to protect, they were doing it in a way to protect them, so to speak, because they were basically not telling the kids the whole truth, even though the kids could see it clearly, because they don't know the children. But in hindsight, looking back and realizing by not telling them the truth, they're actually gaslighting them that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or you're having them doubt their own reality. I mean, because that happened to me, I was always with my children, it's like, trust your instincts, trust your instinct. And again, I think, you know, there was a style of parenting many years ago where it was, the parents really did think they knew best. So their version was better than their child's version. And yet the child was having the experience. And what they're doing is talking about projection again, is projecting the picture they want on top of that experience. No, this cannot be happening. This isn't the truth. It's too messy. It's too many families are going to come apart if we expose this. So rather than even be that honest to say, this is a scary situation, I don't, you know, whatever. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It's not happening. You know, just stuff it down. So yeah, and this is what you know, has as children that have experienced that in their young life, seek that out again. They seek out that narcissistic parent in their partners to relive that experience and hopefully to get a different outcome. But you know, if we're not aware of it, we don't do the healing, we are just going to keep drawing in those types of relationships. And it's interesting. I wonder too how, as I'm saying this, I'm wondering how many of the supporters that are grappling with this, we see this, but we've been told this. I'm wondering how many of them were robbed of their confidence, of their inner knowing. How many of them were raised in a narcissistic cult-like environment where the leader is God and you don't question them?
Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother.
Exactly, as a whole other show there, 100%, because, you know, to some degree, depending on the style of parenting, you know, our parents are our cult leaders. They are the ones that, you know, we follow hook, line, and sinker and don't question because we depend on them. Our livelihoods depend on them.
Right. Yeah.
All good shows coming up there.
We have a few, it seems, because the thing, I mean, the reality is a lot of stuff is also degrees, like the different this is, because some of it can be innocent, some can be protective, some it's self-defense, as we've talked about, some is blatant because it's clearly not real. But that it's interesting that, and so I'm wondering about the term necessary gaslighting in this context, because falsifying information, I mean, that would mean every court case could involve gaslighting, really, because it's like there's always someone who's telling the truth, someone's not telling the truth. And so happen that way too. So ultimately it's about not being in your integrity, and it's not being in your vulnerability and your transparency either way. And I think for, again, I had a conversation with a client this week, to be that willing to go so deep and so vulnerable, there's nothing hidden, is the truest way to discover if your relationship's going to work. And of course, that requires both partners, but it requires a level of openness that can create such intimacy and such vulnerability that makes a relationship so much more powerful than it could have been without that. Because most people, unfortunately, carry a level of, it's not lying necessarily, the concept, I'm trying to find another way of using it, protection perhaps, of not being seen fully because they don't want to be seen as weak. And so they want to carry themselves a certain way, especially men. They want to be not be the tough, strong hero for the woman and not show their flaws because they're worried she won't love him anymore. And women have their own.
You use the word not wanting to appear weak. It's such an interesting, because to me, honesty is so strong. It's
Right.
such strength.
Yeah.
I mean, owning all of the totality of your being, good, bad, ugly, warts and all, is such a turn on to me, because it is all about strength, the strength of convictions, the strength of you knowing who you are to your core and you're okay with it. I mean, to me, those are all very. And the other one, when you were saying some of it's out of defense, some of it's out of caring for the other person, whatever. But I think the ultimate one, where in this case we're talking about right now with in politics, is win at all costs.
Yeah.
My intent to win, no matter how many people I damage in doing that, is more important to me. And that's the where the gaslighting becomes. It's all about getting what I want, and who cares about anybody else that gets hurt on the way or manipulated or thinks they're crazy or whatever.
It basically is my ego above all else.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting because I wouldn't say it's self-image, because I don't trust his self-image is really that strong. I think he's lying to himself as well.
Absolutely, but he's unfortunately he's heard his own lies so much. He's believing them, and he's hoping other people believe them too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that too.
Yeah. Yes, his niece, the psychologist, has got him down. If you ever want to have a psychologist input, I mean, sort of bird's eye view of him, not just as this president, but as a family member. And how this pattern of behavior has existed all of his life. And again, from a wound. I mean, this all came from a wound, a terrible wound. It really, truly strong people don't need to win at all costs. I love the Stephen Covey book, I can't remember, I read it years ago, but the concept of win-win. Anybody that wants to win and dominate and thinks that that's going to work is delusional. The only thing that ever works is win-win, because otherwise somebody's going to want to retaliate, get back, or do something. So it really is that's the relationship, is when you both have the space to get your needs met and share your truth and be honest and vulnerable and show up as you are.
Wouldn't that be perfect?
Yes. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and join us next week. I think we're going to be talking about the kiss cam.
Kiss cams.
Kiss cam. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, have a wonderful week. Thanks, Barry. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Phil. See you next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.